Hey guys, welcome back to Jail History. Australia, the land down under, home of the Sydney Opera House, some crazy animals, and a whole lot of stereotypes. Australia is home to 25 million people and is the sixth largest country in the world land-wise. Australia plays an important part in world politics as it is the most powerful country in Oceania, is located near South Asian countries, and is part of the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. It's also New Zealand's big brother, though don't tell that to a New Zealander. Australia is a very interesting country, but right now you may be wondering, why does Australia exist and how did it become a country in the first place? Well, luckily, that's what today's video is about. Australia was first settled by humans 50 to 65,000 years ago, which is interesting because it means people have lived in Australia for a longer time than Europe and the Americas. Some believe that Aboriginals, the indigenous Australians, descended from African migrants who traveled to Australia. Others believe that the Aboriginals descend from South Asian peoples. Unfortunately, I cannot speak much about Aboriginal history. They don't have a written language, which sadly means that thousands of years of history went unrecorded. The Aboriginals did, however, trade with nearby islanders, and they weren't isolated. But in order to understand why Australia is a country, we have to time travel to 1606. But before that, I want to say that I myself am not Australian and have never lived in Australia. So in order to talk about the history of Australia, I thought I should bring in someone who actually has lived in the country. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Thunder from Down Under, Mars.
Hey.
Thank you for coming to the history part of YouTube. I have to ask though, how does it feel not having arms or legs?
Not great, to be honest. My entire body's made up of 5 shapes anyway?
Ah, yes. That is the high-quality art we guarantee over here at Jail History. So, Moss, perhaps you can tell the viewers about when the Europeans first came to Australia.
Sure. The first European came to Australia in 1606, and his name was Willem Janszoon, and he was a Dutch explorer. He made a landing on the Cape York Peninsula and charted 300 kilometers of the Australian coastline. But his visit was pretty brief, and he didn't set up a colony or anything like that. Later that year, a Spanish explorer sailed through and navigated the Torres Strait. Now, some people believe that the Portuguese, Chinese, and even the Romans came to Australia before Janszoon, but there's no real evidence of anything like that happening. After Janszoon came to Australia, he was followed by many other Dutch explorers who mapped it. They decided to name part of Australia New Holland in honor of their homeland. None of these people, however, established a colony. But I think we all know some people who love colonies. You might know them. They drink a lot of tea, they love monarchy, and their ruler is immortal. Can you guess who I'm talking about? The British, of course!
The British love to colonize places, and Australia was no exception. See, it all started while a man named Captain James Cook was on a voyage. Cook sailed southeast from Britain, arrived in Australia, and charted it on August 22nd, 1770. He then claimed the east coast of Australia as part of the British Empire and named it New South Wales, which is still a state or province in Australia today. Let's see how London reacted to that. Sir, the prisons are overcrowded. Who cares? They're prisoners. Yes, good point. Hey, since the prisons are overcrowded, we're sending these 3 prisoners to live with you. What? Get them out of here. But where should we put them? What about south? Australia was first used as a penal colony, a place for prisoners, by the British in 1788. The British originally sent 736 prisoners, but in the next few years, over 50,000 prisoners would be sent to Australia. And the conditions in these colonies were very inhumane. Prisoners were whipped for the smallest mistakes. For years after that, thousands of prisoners were sent to Australia, and it started growing into a sprawling colony. Transporting prisoners peaked in 1831, but something started happening. People began to see how badly these prisoners were being treated and wanted to put a stop to it. So Britain slowly stopped sending convicts to Australia. The last convict ship sent to Australia arrived in 1868, and after that no more prisoners were sent to Australia from Britain. And now Australia was starting to grow in population. Infrastructure was improving, and Australians thought they didn't need the British looking over them all the time. So on January 1st of 1901, the Commonwealth of Australia was formed. It was made up of mainland Australia and a few other islands, including Tasmania. Australia started as a sparsely populated landmass and ended up as literally one of the best places to live in the world. It has an average life expectancy of 82.5 years and is the 4th highest country on the Standard of Living Index. In conclusion, Australia is a pretty cool place. Thanks very much for watching this video, and thank you to Moz, the Amazing, for helping me teach about Australia. If you liked this video, share it with friends and subscribe. And don't forget to check out Moz's channel, which is linked in the description. With that said, I hope you have a great day.